What's up, fam? Dr. O here. When I was a kid learning about the civil rights movement, I learned about the stories of great black men who did great things to help America be free. I learned the stories about Dr. King and Medgar Evers and Malcolm X and even the quote unquote white allies like JFK and all and Lyndon Johnson who ushered in all of this legislation after the civil rights movement and the protests and all of these things. It was a story about men. Stories about the women were people who were adjacent to the men in some way, shape, or form, or were not really portrayed as being really powerful. Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz were the wives of Dr. King and Malcolm X. And Rosa Parks was this tired old lady who was just so mad one day and was just tired because her feet hurt and just didn't want to get up off the bus. And that sparked the Montgomery bus boycott. Like, the stories of black women were minimized. And as the African proverb goes, until the lion tells its story, history is going to glorify the hunter. And much of this history was written by white people and black males as well, who were involved in some of this writing as well. The fact of the matter is, it wasn't until I was into my adulthood that I started to really understand the real contributions of black women to the civil rights movement. And it's hard to even say contributions because they were leaders in so many areas that they just did not get credit for. It wasn't until I started to do a deeper dive and start going off of the mainstream stories I was told about, a king in his dream and little things they would have us play or watch every year. It was when I started to go into deeper reflection and reading of our own authors, both black male and female, who were telling different stories, whose work didn't make it to the mainstream, that I started to learn about Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz being activists in their own right before they were with their husbands. It was then that I started to learn that Rosa Parks was an activist in her own right and was a Garveyite and worked Malcolm and everything, and like that I learned those things. It was through doing my own deep dive and not going through these mainstream stories that I learned about Judge Constance Baker Motley and how I learned that I only learned about Thurgood Marshall, but now I started to learn about Pauli Murray and I started to learn about Ella Baker, and it was just so frustrating. I started to read about how Shirley Chisholm talked about, I ran as a black woman in the early 70s and I experienced racism and sexism, but it was harder to run as a woman. Well, I'm going to assume it was because she got much flack and hate and disregard from black men who also felt this was not the position she should be taking. My point is that history has always neglected the role that black women have played in this country. This society was built on the womb of a black woman. Why do I say that? Because legacy was changed. Usually legacy is traced through the male, but what they did with slavery was they changed legacy to be traced through the woman, because if the child was born through a black woman, they can still be enslaved, as opposed to the white person who raped the woman, in terms of it being his son and the child being free. So there's just a whole history as it relates to so many years. Look at the founding of American gynecology. We can go down the list to talk about how this country was built off of black women and off the black woman's womb. And it's a problem that needs to be corrected. And so many of us have been doing the work to correct this. One of the challenges I'm seeing nowadays, however, is that there is an effort out there to not correct the record, but to replace the record. There's so many narratives out here that black women are doing everything. Black women are running everything. And black men are just in the back watching or just not doing enough. And in the wake of the Donald Trump election, and I'm not talking about the black women who are angry and talking about, being, staying engaged in the like. I'm seeing stories about, we're just going to go somewhere, sip our tea and watch everything burn. Or we try to tell y'all, you do you, we're checking out. And, we did the most, and so on and so forth. And look, to be clear, black women have always been the leaders in the Democratic Party. There's no disrespect towards that, and have been the number one constituency for Democrats, no doubt. But to create this it was wrong what the stories people told during the civil rights movement that negated black women, and even before that. And it's wrong right now to paint this narrative that as it relates to the black community, it's black women who are doing everything and black men are doing nothing. We came to where we are as a society, as black people working together. And even within that working together, there have been frictions. There have been black men against black men, black women against black women, and of course, black men against black women, of course. But to create a narrative that it's only one group doing something and the other group is either working against black interests or doing nothing at all is problematic. And it's a testimony to the power of the Jim Crow letter. And even though the Jim Crow letter was turned out to be fake, the principles of it, of terms of keeping black people divided, are still playing out today. I saw a post on Instagram. People were responding to Joyanne Reed, a post that she put out there, and she basically ended her post with, you do you, and a lot of black women are going to be taking the back seat. And one woman, we were having a debate, and she said, we fought for everyone's rights from day one, hoping that we could get some of our own. We fought for abolition, freedom, slaves, opposed Jim Crow, suffrage, civil rights, etc., etc., etc. We have consistently advocated for every other group, but are constantly left to fend for ourselves. So we hold our families together, get educated, build businesses, give back more than many other demos, and we are told we are the least of them all. Why do the least impactful demographic, I should say, need to keep doing the most fighting? We don't. Since y'all know so much, do it yourselves. This is how Trump and his people are winning. I was watching Roland Martin talking to a sister the other day on the weekend, and they were talking about the Project 2025 plan to destroy the black community. It wasn't the Project 2025 plan to destroy black women or to destroy black men. It was to destroy us. This is what they are working to implement. And this has always been the case in this country. You look at the Moynihan Report, the coming matriarchy. They have always created, the welfare programs in terms of you couldn't have a black man in the house to get benefits. They have always created policies to keep us divided. And this mentality, my brother was debating with one woman who said, I'm just going to go take my kids and go watch it all burn. That means you're going to watch it burn you and your kids as well. There's no place that black women can go to escape white supremacy. White supremacy cannot be escaped. It can only be defeated. We can't, what are folks going to pack up and go to Wakanda? Wakanda ain't real. And even for y'all want to follow me on my Avengers trip, Thanos got into Wakanda, and I ain't saying Trump is Thanos, but I'm saying Wakanda fell as well. So, we're going to go to Ghana, West Indies, so on and so forth. U.S. economic policy can just switch up and hurt those places as well. So sure, many of us can maybe go somewhere with our economic well-being and live somewhere nice individually and so on and so forth. But I'm speaking about the black collective. It was wrong for America to have a history of negating the role that black women have played in everything this country has exhibited as it relates to fighting for freedom. And it's wrong to reverse the narrative now to say that black men are not doing anything. Biden got into office because of what, the fight that black women were doing, but also great black men like James Clyburn, who gave him the seal of approval. Like, we can go down, why do we have to name check this? Well, Clyburn did this, but Michelle did this, but Barack did this, and Kyra Mosley Brown did. Like, why do we have to do that? It is wrong. And look, to be clear, there are still narratives out there that are negating the roles that black women are playing in activist movements today. Let's be honest about that. I saw an article that said that DeRay McKesson was the founder of Black Lives Matter. Completely ignored the actual founders, Io, Patrice, and Alicia. Completely ignored them and had to correct the record. Well, what do people say? Alyssa Milano was the founder of Me Too, and that had to be corrected. So I'm not confused about what I'm talking about here. My point is that if we're trying to build as a community, none of us can afford to sit anything out. The pain that black women feel in terms of the 92% and stuff, I see it, I hear it, and it's real and it's honest. But if we're going to go forward, we have to go forward with accuracy. And we have to go forward with a new narrative or rewrite the narrative. The fact of the matter is that black men came through for Kamala as well, not in the numbers that I would have liked to have seen, but was still number two. It wasn't like Latino men who went for Trump and so on and so forth. And there's so much to talk about in our community as well in terms of black people who didn't vote, male and female. I know black women specifically who did not vote at all. And so we can't continue to tear each other down while they're building. And I seen some people say, well, I'll hop back in later. Like, the time to strike is not when after the enemy's all fortified and ready to go. So look, I understand the importance of rest. I understand the importance of, checking out in terms of getting the mind right. I mean, I'm sitting here, wearing this shirt because of, my belief in wellness and all of that. So I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about people feel like they got to get their mind right before re-engaging because of the hurt and pain that's being felt. Because I get that. I'm talking about the people who have this mindset, oh, we tried to tell y'all, we're going to check out, we're going to sip our tea and watch it all burn. Look, when have black women ever benefited from a society in pain? The fact of the matter is that hurt people hurt people. And if other people start to feel disenfranchised because of what Trump did, and everyone's talking about y'all about the FAFO and all of that, that pain's going to come right back towards black women. It's going to come right back towards our community in general, and then be directed towards black women and black children. I believe, black mothers still have to be concerned about their kids and the police and so on and so forth. I know black fathers are still concerned. And so when it comes to our community, this country has done us wrong. And Malcolm X talked about what this country has done to black women. We have to use our resources and our skills and our efforts and our passions not to continue to be at each other's head, but to continue to work to build together. Follow the leaders who lead, whether we're talking about the Melanie Campbells, the Latasha Browns, whether we're talking about the Cliff Albrights or the Derek Joneses, whoever it is, right? Whether we're talking about the Joe Takas or the Roland Martins, like, we have to do this together. We have to acknowledge the real history. We have to rewrite the history that has ignored black women. And we can't create a new narrative that paints black men as doing nothing. And I'm actually starting to see media stories and news networks talking about this, already working to continue to sow dissension within our community. And if we truly want to understand the lessons from history, we have to do better. So my ask is that the black women who are out there, who are hurt and angry, continue to channel that anger into something that can be better and more positive for our community. We need you now more than ever. The idea of checking out ultimately is not going to benefit you because it's not going to benefit our community, which you have been the leaders in. And so we need to go forward. Look, I just talked to y'all about the history I didn't get in school about leaders, black women in the civil rights movement. What do you think our kids are going to get now? Look, it's already happening with the book bans. I've seen picture books about Rosa Parks being taken out of schools already before Trump just got reelected. There's an all-out assault on not just removing black women history from schools, but all black history for the little we were already getting. We can't fall for the okie doke. We can't afford to check out. There's nowhere we can go as a whole. I'm talking about as a collective, to escape this, because through policy and military force, folks can come for us anywhere. Can't get rid of, you can't hide from white supremacy. You got to defeat it. You got to fight it. We've done it in the past. We can do it now. And that's my ask, that we take a step back, look at the game that's being played, look at the divide and conquer strategies that are being used against us, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the hurt, and let's work together. There's so many black men who are 100% on board for Vice President Harris, and that can't just be ignored. We're getting ignored on both sides. We're being told by many in the Democratic Party, even black women, some I've seen videos blaming us for everything. Then on the Republican side, people are saying, black men came through for Trump. Look at the mandate he's given us when we didn't. Let's do this together. Let's acknowledge each other's contributions. Let's learn the real history, and let's continue to build a community, because as the great Willie Jolly says, success is better together. Peace.